I got money on my mind. I'm just trying to get some dough. I ain't picking up my line unless it's money on the phone.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Black Wealth Renaissance Podcast. Your boy, David Bella, 1/4 of the Black Wealth Renaissance, checking in with my co-host for the episode. Jalen, how you feeling, my brother?
What's good, what's good, what's good? It's your boy, Jalen, man. Another quarter of the Black Wealth Renaissance. Feeling great on this Saturday, man. Got some good vibes, good energy going on. You already know how we living, man. Really happy to get ready and get started into this podcast interview, man.
Always, man. So a good Saturday as usual. Been dealing with some bullshit with my rental lately, but hey, it is what it is. You got to take the good and the bad with it. But hey, that's the game.
That's what happens, huh?
The car rental game. But that's not what we're here to talk about, obviously, y'all. We got another fire podcast for y'all. On this episode, we got a young lady out of New York who is absolutely killing it. She's a serial entrepreneur, real estate investor, educator, CPA. Like, she does the damn thing. Owner of Fola Financial. She is known as the People's CPA, Miss Sheneya Wilson. I'm sorry. Sheneya, how you living?
Hey, I'm feeling good, living great. How y'all doing?
Oh, we doing great, doing great. Appreciate you for coming on our podcast. Thank you for gracing us. We are so ready to have this conversation with you.
Indeed.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here and can't wait to chop it up with y'all.
Hey, we love it.
Thank you for pulling up. So, Sheneya, we want to start this like we start every podcast. We want to ask you, what was the beginning of your journey? Like, how did you find your way into being the People's CPA?
Ooh, really good question. So it's interesting because I'm such an accounting nerd now, people typically think that I just started off in accounting. And I actually went into college being undeclared. I didn't know what I wanted to do. When I was in elementary school, I was really good in math to the point where I did skip a grade. I went from first grade to third grade because I was so advanced in math and reading that I was teaching my first grade class. So I graduated super early, finished high school at 16, started college when I was 17, but went in undeclared, not knowing what I wanted to do. So I took advanced math. I took pre-calc my first semester of college, which was like suicide. I did end up dropping that class and going to math 3 because I couldn't handle the pre-calc, but I did enjoy math. And my mother, she was a paralegal, so I used to watch her get dressed up for work. And I loved that whole boss lady look with her having her suits on, her skirts and her heels and her briefcases. So I'm like, I just want to be a businesswoman. I want to be in business so I can dress up, wear the suits. So I'm like, okay, well, what can I do that is combining my love for math, but then my aspirations to look like a female boss, right? That was fire to me. So while I was undeclared, I did take an accounting course, and the teacher pointed me out, and he's like, you're actually really good at this. Not only are you good at understanding the formulas, but more so understanding how they apply in the real world. You should think about being an accountant. So I'm like, okay, I did have an uncle who was an accountant. His wife was a doctor. They had a huge house, like several cars. I'm like, okay, where there's obviously money there. So let me think about being an accountant. So I went to an AICPA conference. AICPA is like a huge organization that's for CPAs. And they talked about the journey of becoming a CPA and like the benefits of it. And the fact that there's only 4% Black CPAs in this country, which is crazy because there's a bunch of Black-owned businesses, but not a bunch of Black-owned help, right? So I'm like, okay, that intrigued me. I'm good at math, I understand business, I love business. Let me be an accountant. So that's kind of started the journey. I did my associate's degree there. I went on, got my bachelor's degree in accounting, stayed for my MBA, got an MBA with a concentration in public accounting. Soon as I left, I joined a Big 4 accounting firm, working as an auditor, working at big tech firms. So it was super cool. But I learned quickly that after passing my CPA, when I was in my MBA program, I wanted to use my license for something that was bigger than me, right? Anybody can get a CPA license and work for a corporation. I wanted to build corporations, right? I wanted to work with small businesses who needed someone on their team that had efficient business acumen and financial analysis skills to help them grow their business. And that's literally where I found my passion at. At the same time, when I was transitioning out of being in public accounting, one of my close friends, who is a super famous entrepreneur that most of us know now, he was starting his business, right? And I'm gonna shout him out. So it's a boo for Fama. Everybody see his ads.
Hey, yeah, I definitely see his ads. He be killing it on the ads game.
Hey, shout out.
So I I've been working with him for the past 3 years. Like literally, we started our businesses at the same time. He needed a CPA. I needed to build a business and have clients. So to watch people like him go from literally zero to millions, most of my clients end up going to 30K a year, to 300K a year, to 3 million a year. It's been a beautiful, rewarding career to be able to impact businesses that way, because we all talk about building generational wealth, and yes, we can do that on their own, but it's even more impactful when you can do it on your own and also help others build and achieve that as well. And that's why I am the people's CPA, because I work with everybody, right?
I love it.
I love it too.
I do want to, like, I'm glad that you talked about the beginning of it, the beginning of your journey being that it was started with you being good at math. Like, cause I feel like right now with this entrepreneurial environment, the things that we talk about a lot, people say stuff like, oh, we need to get rid of algebra and we need to do all this, but that stuff is still very important, because you mentioned the piece in there about understanding those financial statements and really understanding how to grow and build a business. So can you speak more to just like how that aspect of it has affected business owners, I guess?
Oh, yes. So I hate hearing things like most small businesses fail. Most small businesses don't grow past, X amount. Because to be a small business, that's millions of dollars, right? The threshold. Yet most small businesses that we may know may not ever see $1 million or more than that. And it's because they don't understand what foundational pieces that they need to build and scale a business, right? And at the core of everything is data, right? The reason why we use Instagram is because they have an algorithm that uses data. Well, I look at financials the same way. Your financial statements is data. So the same way software engineers can take data and program to make X system, you can take your finances and program your business to achieve what you want it to achieve. But you cannot do that without having a solid foundation. So you need to understand your numbers and have the handle on them, which is why bookkeeping is important. But bookkeeping is just one part of the equation. You also need to have an expert on your team who is going to be able to analyze those numbers for you. So you can analyze how good you're doing this season compared to last season. So now you know how to go ahead and expend your marketing dollars, because you have that data that proves, well, if I put X amount more funds here, I can perhaps scale and make $1 million in this specific sector of my business, right? So that passion came from being in these boardrooms. Again, I did work in corporate for several years. So I was in a boardroom as the CPA analyzing numbers, and you have the CEO who's there, the COO who's there, but there's always a CPA or a chief financial officer in that room that's present. And that presentation that CFO is providing drives the conversation, because we cannot plan, we cannot scale, we cannot grow and achieve generational wealth without having a solid baseline of understanding your business finances. That's very, very important.
And you said some very important things in there. You said the reason why some businesses don't really expand is because they don't have the core fundamentals of business. Could you just kind of highlight what, I know you just gave us the accounting and like some of the marketing, but could you highlight what are the core fundamentals that you need to at least have a successful, scalable business?
Okay, so for sure, number one is structuring. And I will kind of combine that with being in compliance, because most people form an LLC and that's as far as they go. Man, you have to remember that depending on what sector you're in, you may need some additional licenses. You may need to buy business insurance. So I will lump in like creating your entity with also understanding what is required for compliance. And that's number one. Number two is having a solid foundation with your numbers. And that's going to be achieved by doing bookkeeping. Number four is filing your taxes, right? I know everyone hates to hear that. I don't want to pay the IRS nothing. Well, there's a direct linkage between you filing your taxes and you being able to qualify for certain business loans. And that's needed for you to scale. So I would say that's for sure number three. And then number four is having your team. If you are trying to grow a business, you can't wear every hat. It's almost impossible. Yes, you can get some help from some softwares that may offer, some virtual assistant programs, etc. But to grow and build a system, that's sustainable, look at what these corporations are doing. The blueprint is literally out there, right? You go to a corporate boardroom, you see the CFO, you see the COO, you see the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. Now we have CTOs. Build your team. That's very important. You cannot wear every hat, especially when you are trying to grow, because as we know, time is money. And if you don't have any extra time to give, you can't make no more money. So have a solid team. That's very important. I think those are my top 4 of like the core competencies of having a business.
I'm glad that you touched on all of that, because that's very, very vital too. I think one of the most important things that you said was like the team also, because especially in our community, we'll see us, especially whenever we try to start, whenever we're starting off in the beginning phases, is, oh, I'm the boss, I need to do this, I have to do all of these things. So do you ever come across clients who have that type of mentality, and how do you break that mentality for them?
Oh, yes, for sure. And honestly, it's inherent in us, especially as entrepreneurs. Like, you're like, this is my business, baby. This is my idea. I have to see it grow. Well, as we know, when it comes down to raising kids, they say it takes a village. So if you look at your business as being your business baby, just know it's going to take the same thing, a village, right? So I would literally break down to the clients, look how much time you're trading for your business. Your goal was to be an entrepreneur. That's great. You did it. You achieved some type of freedom, right? But did you really achieve true freedom? And I would define true freedom as being able to step away from your business for a month to 3 months if you need to, and it's still running by itself, right? And most people can't get to that point because they don't want to delegate. They don't want to build a team, and they think about the expenses more than they think about the benefits. So with my clients, I would break down to them, look at what you're currently doing, right? Make a list of tasks that you currently do every day. And then let's see which of those tasks we can give to somebody else to do. And let's also quantify how much more minutes you have of your day that you now took that time and delegated it out. And that could be a few hours. Do you know how much more work you can get done in a few hours? You can spend more time marketing. You can spend more time scaling, right? So I think with most people is, and this is why I love what I do so much, it's because I can literally show them the numbers, right? And that has such a more significant effect, because you can say one thing, but if I can show you on a screen, if you hire 2-3 personnel to do what you're doing, you can grow your business by 1.5 and bring a net profit up 20%. That sounds a lot better than me telling you to, hand your business baby to somebody else. So they say, women lie, men lie, numbers don't. And I think that in every aspect of what I do, showing the numbers, showing the data ultimately really makes that difference.
That's major. Man, that's so major, because that's one of the biggest hurdles I feel like business owners face. And looking into your business, Fola Financial, we learned that it grew very, very fast. So like, can you speak to that? How the knowledge of that? Well, just knowledge.
First, even with Fola, like, I want you to break down your name, because whenever I learned the reason why you named it, I was like, oh, I really like that. So can you just break down like why you named your business Fola Financial, and then what you had?
Well, I just wanted to know, like, with Fola, like, applying these principles, how it assisted in the growth.
Okay. So how did I name the business Fola? I love that question, because I get to shout out my best friend, Billy Keys. So when I was transitioning out of corporate, I knew I wanted to start a financial services company. And I'm super like picky with names. I wanted something that had like F and F. So like F Financial. So I went through like Fly Financial. I went through like Fast Financial. Just F and F. And then my best friend, she was like, you should try to make that word cultural as well. So I'm like, okay, well, what type of name can I have that's cultural, that has an F and still goes well with financial? So, I'm from the Bronx, so I'm thinking finesse financials. I'm like, okay, well, let me mix it up and make it sound cool. So she actually brainstormed the name and called the company Fola Financial. And just to further break down what Fola means, Fola is a Yoruba native name that means honor and wealth. So it was perfect, because I am a CPA, so I would say that I'm pretty honorable. And my goal is to help people build and maintain wealth. So I'm like, oh, no, this is it. This is it. Fola Financial is easy, rolls off the tongue. Everybody know what it is. It's a brand.
love it.
I love it.
I'm glad you didn't name it Finesse Financial. I just want to say that.
Finesse Financial sound like you was going to scam a nigga.
Imagine they're like, can I trust her? She's a CPA, but finesse. I'm not trying to get finesse down here. Oh my God. So yes, no. And in regards to growing the business, so to answer the second part of the question, I had to go through those same things. It was at a point where I was getting these great clients. And honestly, I'm super blessed that my business pretty much grew on its own from referrals. I pride myself on, yes, by itself. I barely do any marketing, barely do any type of paid advertising. I really don't do much because I pride myself in performing the best all the time. So clients that come to me know that they're getting expert treatment. They know that they are getting real life answers in a way that they can understand it. Because not only am I providing financial services, I am educating people. People who come to FOLA know that not only are you getting your taxes prep or your bookkeeping done, you're going to learn a lot more. Because again, I can just do your work for you, but if my goal is to impact the community, I'm going to have to educate people, because you can bring a horse to water, right? But if it doesn't know how to drink, then what good is that? So I make sure that that's at the core of what we do. So essentially it grew pretty quickly just from the clients that I was working with, the referrals. I started doing a bunch of speaking engagements and interviews, etc. And the word started getting out there by itself. But again, my whole thing was keep your head down and stay in this laptop, get your work done the right way. So as I got to the point where I couldn't do everything on my own, I know I needed to hire out work. And I am very, very, very protective over my clients. They all know that. I don't play about them. And so I needed to hire people who were just as qualified as me, right? And it was very important for me to hire other CPAs to work with FOLA and not just any other type of accountant, because when you are a CPA, we have a lot more skin in the game, given the fact that we're under regulation, right? So there's an extra level of care that goes into the work that we do. So I made sure that I hired CPAs, and yes, I did break bank, obviously, to do that. But it contributes to the growth of the company in the long run. I'm okay with taking a L for a year or two if I have to not pay myself a salary, knowing that my customers are being served the best. And that's kind of where we are now. So we're currently a team of 5. It's myself, 2 other CPAs. I have a great bookkeeper and a person who is in charge of admin and operations, and things work super, 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 super seamlessly. So we went from doing 30 clients in year 1, which is 2017. Now we're up to doing around 600 clients. And again, that's all the street.
Give it a clap,
the word of mouth.
600. And that was in, you said that was in 2 years?
3 years. 3 years.
Man, explosive growth, exponential growth. I love it.
I love it too. And I kind of want to go back, because, you know, you started your business, but you also said you was leaving from one of the corporate. Big 4, like one of the corporate. So this is a 2-part question. One, could you explain what is the Big 4 accounting firms, the importance of them? And then I also want you to explain, what were you feeling whenever you were deciding to actually leave from that? What type of feelings did you have inside?
Okay, so a Big 4 accounting firm, and here are the top Big 4, is PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, it's Deloitte, there's KPMG, and there is Ernst & Young, EY. So those Big 4 accounting firms are big because they control most of the audit market, right? These huge companies that we love to trade on the stock exchange, they are required to have audited financial statements. So the reason why we are able to invest in these companies, it's because an independent auditor took time and validated the accuracy of their financial statements. So performing audits is a mandate by the SEC, right? So think of like Tesla's, Walmart's, etc. All of these companies are hiring audit firms to perform audits so that they can stamp that their financial statements are free of material misstatement. So it just gives comfort for those like us who do invest in these companies that, again, an independent party did go ahead and verify their financial statements. So I loved audit for that reason. Because I worked on such big clients, I got a really broad understanding of the business world and how many departments these big corporations had, how many divisions these corporations had. So it really does expand your mind on just thinking more wide when it comes to business. Mm-hmm. So I do attribute, a lot of my knowledge that I know now to my career, right? Because without being in Big Four, I wouldn't know as much as I know about how complex business structures can get, but the importance, again, of also understanding the details, because auditors, we look at the details. We want to see that in aggregate, your numbers make sense. And sometimes you have to go a little bit deeper to get that support. So that's pretty much what Big Four accounting is. Mm-hmm. The reason why it's Big Four is because, again, imagine a little CPA firm like me trying to audit Tesla. I don't have enough personnel for that, right? So these Big Four accounting firms have staff on deck to have 20, 30 teams of people to do these bigger audits. So, but some small companies also do audits as well. And in regards to my transition out, that's a really good question about how I was feeling. So to be honest, yes, I did enjoy, being in Big Four, but I am a person who kind of gets bored really fast, like really fast. It's like, all right, when I was in Big Four, they would give me a project. I'm not only going to complete the project, I'm going to figure out how to automate it so I don't have to do it again myself the next time. Mm-hmm. So it got to the point where I would just like have a full day's worth of work and I'm getting it done in 4 hours. And, sometimes if you're bored, you ask for some more work and they're like, oh my God, you're so quick. But it's like, all right, they're not paying me any extra to be greater. So I'm not going to spend more time. So what I would do in my spare time, and don't tell them, well, y'all know which one I worked at. But what I would do is research how to build a financial company. And so while I was there, I was already mentally preparing to transition out because I just started knowing the value of what I was able to offer to the world. So yes, my salary was great, but I knew that there was no limit to what I could make. I didn't want to be capped at, oh, she's great, give her $65K, give her a bonus, 2%. Now I'm making $67K. Wow. I mean, not to discredit anybody's salary, but it just goes off of the effort. If I'm putting in effort to automate things, get this job done quicker, I want to see a direct correlation between my efforts and my profits, period.
Because of the value that you bring in. You bring value.
You bring in value. And like you said something major in there, like you were providing them, you would ask them for other work, right? And they wouldn't go give you no more money for that. They wouldn't go pay you extra for that. But like whenever you realize the worth you had to that company, you were able to like be like, okay, well, damn, I could do this for myself and make more money. I always think about the Master P example. Like if they go give me this much money to do this, how much more money can I actually make them? How much money am I actually making them?
Exactly. Also, another thing, I figured out how much they billed the client to have us at the client site. Ooh. So our billable rate for the client was around $326. If I broke down my salary, I was getting paid around $37 an hour. So I'm like, okay, I'm literally getting paid 10% of what we're even worth to them on paper to the clients. So if I'm worth that on paper to them, again, what am I worth on my own by myself? That can be $1,000 an hour, right? So why not just explore and see what I can do? And by the grace of God, I've been able to actually see, again, that reward for my efforts and being able to quantify, all right, if I put this much effort in, I could hopefully make X amount of dollars. And with entrepreneurship, there is no limit. If I want to make $1 million tomorrow and I put my mind to it, I can do that. There's nobody stopping me. There's no boss telling me that I can't do overtime or I can't explore X, Y, and Z. You have that capability in yourself to do whatever. And if I want to start 5 more businesses, I can do so because I learned how to build one. I do believe wholeheartedly that if you can become an entrepreneur who is successful in one business, you can take that same formula and duplicate it over and over again, which I have done with a couple of my other business ventures that I have as well.
I love you. Thank you for answering that question so well.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and we definitely gonna get into those other business ventures a little bit later into this. But dang, I had a thought.
I got one in my head that I already.
I'm gonna let you roll.
I want to. So since we're talking about your transition and everything, I want to know, what was that first client like for you once you left? Like, what did that look like? And did you have to do that year, like you said, where you didn't pay yourself a salary? Did you have to do that also?
Oh, yeah. This is my first year paying myself a salary. I put my staff on salary before I even did myself.
Talk about it.
you have to, again, it pay the cost to be the boss, right? People don't want to hear that. But I'm gonna take the back seat and not pay myself nothing as long as I'm putting my best foot forward for my business. So for sure, that was the biggest thing. Feeling wise with my first client, it was actually a pretty decent experience. I didn't really know how to put a proposal together. He asked me for that, and I'm like, okay, well, here's what I got. It was a bookkeeping client. He was in Delaware company, and I was doing bookkeeping for several of his series LLCs. And it was pretty good because I got also to learn about how series LLCs work and the importance of structuring entities to help grow in a more tax efficient way. So that client worked out really good. Then he ended up like getting bigger. So he wanted somebody more full time and in person. I wasn't moving to Delaware, right? But at that time, I did have the confidence, like, okay, I have a really good client. He did leave me a really good review. My first client, I got from Upwork. It was on Upwork. It wasn't like, no.
Hey, that's real.
I was really going to ask you.
That's
I was about
real.
to ask you, what was your marketing tactic to get that? But hey, you got to be honest. And that's how we found our first VA. And she's been awesome.
She's been on the team, what, 2 years now?
Yeah.
Wow. Yep. Upwork, no shame in my game. And then went from that. I did a couple of projects on Upwork and again started building that repertoire with people. People know what I was doing, what I was good at. Started just marketing myself more on Instagram and etc. And it kind of grew that way. So it started with something that was super small, but for sure, consistency and being persistent makes all of the difference.
Sheneya, I want to speak more to whenever you were making that transition, like before you did it. Because, I mean, I'm pretty sure you weren't expecting to enter into entrepreneurship and eventually end up having to not pay yourself. Because I think that's like one of the things, a mental hurdle that people don't expect. So can you speak to how you were preparing yourself to leave whenever you did make that decision mentally, like I'm going to leave this job and pursue my own career path?
So for sure, I think that being an entrepreneur has to also come with you being a visionary. And I think that like most small businesses that do fail, it's because they can't see past year 1, 2, and 3. If you do your research, most businesses don't make a profit in year 1 and 2. It's part of the game, right? You have to put stuff out to expect the return. But even if we plant a seed in the ground, you're not expecting that flower to come tomorrow, are you? So why you are expecting overnight success in your business? That makes no sense. So I have no problem of telling people that I just started paying myself for my business and I'm a CPA, I could have been getting an 80K salary somewhere easily, but that's not what I'm looking for right now. And even though I'm paying myself a little something now, this is still not what I'm looking for in the future. I want to be able to, again, step away knowing that I'm still getting paid and not having to do any work. And I know to get there, I have to humble myself. That's very important. Entrepreneurs sometimes want to feel entitled to success and you want to feel entitled to having clients. You want to feel entitled to getting paid gigs. Ain't no entitlement out here, right? It's none of that. You don't get rewarded for that. You get rewarded for your work. So you have to take your time and put that effort in. Yes, that reward will come. And when it does come, it comes in abundance because you planted those seeds. You planted several seeds. So when the fruits start reaping, you get to eat out of the harvest because you did that. You did that. So.
Real talk. That's so real. I'm glad you spoke on that.
And you didn't have nothing else?
Man, if anything,
She was on the roll. I ain't gonna lie. I do have another topic that I want to go on. I just didn't want
to transition. So I know one thing I definitely wanted to talk about was you deciding to pursue that PhD. I think that's something. That's
actually where I was going to go.
That's something that's major that I think a lot of people, especially if we think about entrepreneurship, that we kind of always, once again, dismiss education. Like, oh, I don't need this because I can go out and get it by myself. So I wanted to ask you, like, what made you go ahead and pursue that PhD, already having an MBA and the CPA designation?
And doing it so young. I don't want to glance over that part, y'all. Like, man, did y'all hear what age she started school? Like, what age did you get your MBA also?
Okay, I finished my MBA when I was 21.
Come on, man. You don't know nobody doing that shit out here, man.
I don't know nobody going to do it.
So I loved education. Always loved it. I was a nerd in school, but I was always cool. But I loved learning. I did love learning. I do know that, like, just the more you learn, the more you open yourself up to what the world can offer you. And I fell in love with that more than anything. And then as I started to excel in elementary and middle school and high school, the teachers that I had, I was really blessed and lucky. They would put me in positions to teach always. All right, Sheneya gets this, so maybe I'm not teaching correctly. Let me let her teach the class. And I had the opportunity to teach so many times. When I was in high school, my high school math teacher was just like, all right, every Thursday, you just do the class recap so that the class can know what to do. And it became that. When I got to college, I was taking accounting courses when I was doing my bachelor's degree. And when I got into the MBA program, they're like, okay, well, we'll take X amount off your tuition and pay you X dollars if you want to teach this accounting lab. Why not? Okay. So teaching is more so of like, I feel like that's where my calling really is. And that is what inspired me to go ahead and pursue a PhD because I wanted to teach. What I did not know was the full details of what a PhD entails, and that is being a researcher. And yes, that's great, but that's not where my passion really lies. So interestingly, now start the journey from here first. So I started the PhD program at the same time that I started Full Love Financial. The reason being is because PhD programs, when you are in the field of business, typically those programs are free, and you also get a stipend to go ahead and teach and be a TA. So why not? Yeah, you got $30K a year, $35K a year. Everyone should know this. There's a website called the PhDproject.org. So if you know anyone who wants to further education, getting a PhD in business can be free. Yes.
Yeah, obviously you can make money. Hey, man, I'm kind of interested now.
Right. So I'm like, okay, well, it's the perfect thing to do. I'll start my business, but I have this little cushion, you know, of being a student and being able to get paid from being a TA. However, things started to change, right? So I was in the PhD program to learn accounting information systems. So I learned how to code. I can code in R. I can code in Python. I know how to build like little RPA robots where I can program a system to do some automated tasks. I learned a lot in school about technology. That's what I was in there for. During the program, Full Love Financial continued to grow and grow at an exponential speed. So I kept being faced with do you want to focus on writing a 30-page paper, or are you going to focus on serving your 30, 40 clients, right? So I was faced with a decision where it's like, all right, where do my efforts want to go? Spoke to some mentors about leaving the program because I was just like, you know, the business is here, is going here. Some of them told me to stay in school. Some of them told me that I should leave school. Like, you know, we're in the age of entrepreneurship where we can't take that back. So ultimately, I decided to leave the program. And my last semester was actually this past semester, so December. So instead of finishing with a PhD, I did get a second master's degree. So my time wasn't wasted. I was in the program for 2 years. So I was able to finish with my second master's degree, which is in management information systems. So that's currently where I am now with school. I don't ever discredit people from getting a PhD, but my passion again lied more with impacting people. And to get a PhD, it takes time. Like, you know, for me to think that I can run a business and also be a great student, that's me being an overachiever, which I am. But at some times you have to really assess your capabilities. Do I want to put my efforts here? And then also, is completing this going to get me to where I want to be? And ultimately, I learned that in my business, I am a teacher. I am Dr. Wilson in my business, right? My business clients, I nurse them to health. They all grow. And on top of that, with one of my second businesses, Telp, I also teach people how to start their own tax businesses. I have an IRS-approved tax training program that provides CE credits for people and a curriculum on how to build your own tax practice. So I'm teaching every day, and I was left with the decision to either stay in school or pursue my dreams and pursue entrepreneurship. School will always be there. At the end of the day, I can't pass down that paper. Yes, it's going to be great when I do achieve it in the future. But right now, tomorrow is not promised. And my goal is to build wealth for my future children, right? I want to make sure that I can pass them buildings. I want to pass them several businesses. Do you want to be an accountant? Do you want to work in here as operations? Do you want to go ahead and run this tax training program? Do you want to run my property management program. What do you want to do, right? That's a lot more flexibility in giving my kids the satisfaction knowing that their parent finished a PhD. So for sure, focus shifted. Don't discredit school, but at this point, I want to be a billionaire. I'm like, I don't know much billionaires with a PhD. So
hey, and that's so real though. And just the things that you touched on, even you realizing, you know, my business is more important. School is always going to be there. School ain't going anywhere. Mm-hmm. Even if you would have stopped, could you have like just pick back up? Yeah, you can like pick back up and just.
I can, yeah. So I like sure pick back up. So again, I was awarded a second master's. If I want to go ahead and finish school in the future, I can. But I may not get a PhD in the future. What I'm interested now on is like maybe getting into tax law and being a tax lawyer instead. I don't know what the future holds. I'll just let, you know, the universe guide me as is. And I just want to always be in the place where people can, you know, use my skills for what can help them build their business. And that's important to me right now.
And that's all that matters. And one of the things, the reason why I wanted to go there is because the way you were breaking down crypto, it was another interview I heard from you, and you were breaking down, you know, your understanding of crypto versus all of the other tax CPAs out there who really kind of either write it off or they're just like, you know, I mean, I know Bitcoin is crypto, but they don't understand blockchain and the way that it can actually impact the world. So I like that you're focusing on that too, because that's really relevant in the way that we're moving.
Mm-hmm. It's very important. So again, I do appreciate the fact that I was in this PhD program. I learned so much about technology, like about just the basic way of how AI was even invented, and obviously understanding the behind the scenes of what Bitcoin is supposed to be for. People don't understand that Bitcoin was a reward system, right? A reward system for a blockchain, which is a way to increase transparency in how we do transactions. And I am all for what blockchain could represent in the future. This is going to be a way for people to put security back into their own hands, whether it's transferring assets, so me buying a house through a blockchain where we don't have to go to a bank. We don't have to pay for X, Y, and Z, where we can use smart contracts, which is like another technology piece that can be integrated with a smart chain to go ahead and create these automated contracts. So it really is built to eliminate the intermediary in a lot of transactions. So whether it's monetary, instead of us going through the feds to access money, let's just trade crypto, right? Let's just trade through a blockchain. Or instead of going through a mortgage lender to get a mortgage or to buy a house, let's do that on the blockchain by using smart contracts. So it's ways to get from point A to point B and eliminating a lot of the in-between, which can be very cost effective in the long run.
So real quick, can you talk about these smart contracts? Because this is the first time I've ever
That's your first time hearing it?
I've never heard of a smart contract.
It was after the podcast with Adrian, I started looking into all of this. They're even talking about smart contracts in the music industry.
Because that is major. Like you really, like, I understood the point of crypto was to remove the financial intermediary, take the bank out of the process, the underwriting process.
Decentralization.
But I never knew they had like contracts tied to the blockchain. That's crazy.
Yeah, so smart contract, think of that as being just a self-executing contract, right? Again, everything comes down. I love data technology and it's so crazy. So essentially everything comes down to details, right? Our being is a genetic makeup of details. So what smart contracts do is basically detail what type of criteria needs to be met in order for that contract to be executed. So in the example of a mortgage, we know that you have to get your credit score in, it has to be above a certain threshold. You have to have your income verified, it has to be above a certain threshold. We need to have verification that that asset actually exists. We need to have verification that we actually have a buyer. We need to have verification that the buyer and seller agreed. So let's detail and put down all of the steps needed to make this contract happen in the technology, aka smart contract. So now we don't need to have somebody in the middle of the buyer and seller dictating what needs to be done. We have the contract that already has all of the prescripted criteria. So now the buyer and seller can communicate just through their own channel and get that contract executed and fully enforced, knowing that each step was taken and without having again to expense unnecessary expenses because you use a smart contract instead.
That is major. That is like really revolutionary. That's why I'm glad you spoke on it. And we talk about crypto on this podcast. We want to make sure that we're pushing that out there to people, just because like I know myself personally, at first I wasn't a believer in crypto. When I first heard of it, it was one of those things that was like, oh, people using this on the dark web to scam people and all this. And like our people go end up being late to the party if we just continue with that mindset of like, oh man, I heard bad things about that. Yeah, but that was 10 years ago. Like, what's going on now? Like, what's really happening? What's the benefits of this? Because this is a life-changing technology. Like, this is about to revolutionize some stuff.
Nah, for real.
It is. Technology is moving so quickly, and if people don't pay attention to it, they will be left behind, right? Because as we know right now, technology is displacing so many people, right? Like manufacturing used to be such a huge industry for people to be employed in. Right now, manufacturing is done 90% by robots. You know, so and now they're programming robots to program robots. So it's like,
bro, the manufacturing thing, I keep on telling you, they're trying to bring manufacturing to space. They're trying to bring 3D printing and source the resources from outer space, like meteors and all of this crap. Like they're trying to turn Earth into a fully, strictly residential zone. No manufacturing being done on Earth.
Crazy. It's crazy. It's technology, and it's like we have to stay ahead of it because we need to know how to pivot. I think that's even important for like small businesses as well, is knowing how to pivot in this age of technology. Like you need to figure out how to automate as much as you can, right? Amazon grew because they were able to build robots to help them in their warehouses, help them deliver. And I know like it sucks that it's happening and people are losing their jobs, but are you going to sit there and complain or figure out a way to build a sustainable system on your own so that you can benefit from the technology evolution?
Message.
And even like with the robots and being replaced, you got to look at this happens throughout civilization, though. Even with farming, whenever the first industrial revolution came about, people were in the fields picking by. So of course we had a reason why it was kind of,
you talking about with the cotton gin and this?
Not even just with the cotton gin. I'm talking about why it was accelerated.
Yeah.
Once they were lost their workforce with slavery, they had to figure out, how can we do this the most effective way? But even with that, the workforce, it changed. Instead of you needing people on your actual farm doing the irrigation, digging trenches or anything, they had machinery now. So now you had to go from being the actual farmer, the worker, to understanding how do I fix the machinery when it breaks? It's going to break. Once again, computers started to take away certain jobs. You shouldn't be the person worrying about, oh, this is the job this computer replaced me with. Figure out how you're going to fix the computer. We just have to learn how to evolve because jobs are going to be created. You just have to understand where the job lies in the industry.
Ooh, that's a really good bar because I love that you brought that up because people ask me all the time, like, what do you think? What's going to happen to the workforce? And I know for a fact that if you are somebody who is a visionary, you will always find your place, right? At the same time, we're losing jobs because of technology and automation. There were new jobs being created. 20 years ago, there was no such thing as being an influencer, a YouTuber. Meanwhile, these people are getting paid 7 figures to do what they're doing, right? So it's all about, like, yes, technology is driving the change for the future. How do you stay ahead of that wave? How do you make sure that when the wave does happen, you're the one who's going to be able to ride it with everyone else, right? Because if not, you'll be the one that's going to get smacked by the wave, and now you're complaining that the wave even happened. Well, history repeats itself. So dot-com bubble was a perfect example. The housing market crash, whatever may happen. History is a blueprint for where we're going in the future. So take time to educate yourself. What happened in Industrial Revolution? How did technology change that? Because we can use that to make inferences about how it'll affect our futures. And again, we want to be ahead of that wave. So figure out how to put yourself in position to reap the benefits, whether it's investing in these tech companies, whether it's starting your own, whether it is, just being a part of some type of involvement where you are being able to reap those benefits, because we cannot stop this. Like, they're not going to stop producing robots or automating things. We live in a capitalistic country. Let's call it what it is and know that we are in this game. if you don't acknowledge that you're in a game, you're going to be the one getting played all the time, right? So the goal is, all right, we're in this game. What can we do about being here? And how can I have this game put me in the winner's seat every time, right? I'm trying to not just pass go and collect $200. I'm trying to pass go, have my hotels, my buildings, my businesses, or my Monopoly board too, because that's where the money is.
She over here preaching, man.
And I'm glad you just talked on that Monopoly concept, because it kind of is a perfect segue into the next thing I wanted to ask you about, and that's your real estate journey. I heard you mention that you're a real estate investor partially because you teach on generational wealth and you want to lead by example. So can we kind of get into your real estate journey, how that started for you?
Of course. And I love that because people always ask me like, what differentiates you from other CPAs? And I'm like, this is not all that I do, right? I'm an entrepreneur just like you, and this is not my only business venture. What makes us common is the fact that you want to build generational wealth. Well, I do too. So I'm going to be that person that can provide that type of insight. So investing in real estate honestly started with reading one of my favorite books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Hey, we got to give Rob his flowers, man. I know he kind of fucked up now, but hey.
Hey, man, it is what it is.
That book changed my whole perspective on freedom. And again, that whole concept of how much longer are we going to continue to trade our time for money? I love traveling. I love experiences. I love being with my family. And even as an entrepreneur, I am not always rewarded with that, right? But when you invest in real estate, you can have that comfort of knowing at a minimum, my bills are going to be paid because my properties are paying me. So even if I stop FOLA, my bills are still covered, right? So I did make a post on Instagram the other day about the cash flow quadrant and how passionate I was about moving from being in the self-employed, so the S section of it, to the B, right? So being self-employed, if you stop working, your business stops working. I am blessed to have gotten to the B quadrant where if I walk away for 3 months, my business is still going to run by itself and it's still going to run great because I have a great team. The whole goal of that is, again, give your time back to yourself so you can go ahead and do whatever you want with your time. So I started investing in real estate for that reason. I wanted to be able to have more accessibility to achieving financial freedom. And that's one of the quickest ways to get there. On top of that, investing in real estate is the quickest way to triple, well, not even triple, but to grow your net income, your balance sheet. So I would say your net worth exponentially, right? Because you can start off with buying $100,000 property. You're putting down maybe 10K in total closing costs plus, etc. But now, if you hold on to that property, it may be worth $300K in the future. It all started with a $10,000 investment. So your only cash deposit was $10,000. And now you have a $300,000 asset, right? So again, talking about the whole balance sheet idea, I think is very important because when most people think about wealth, they think income statement, right? Income statements are temporary. Most of them are temporary accounts. Income statements get closed out to the balance sheet at year end. Let me break that down because I know most of you guys listening are not accountants. At year end, your net income gets carried to your retained earnings section of your balance sheet. Your balance sheet shows how much your business and ultimately you are worth. So when we talk about net worth, we're talking about balance sheet. What are your assets? How many liabilities do you have? And what is your share of equity? And maybe that's personal equity, business equity, etc. Well, most people, they're so focused on the income statement, they ignore their balance sheet. And you may have a net $1 million business, but then you have $2 million in debt. And you also have $0 in cash, $0 in any other assets. Well, you are still operating at a negative net worth. So very important to understand the importance of analyzing your balance sheet. So we talk about balance sheets. The most important section, obviously, is assets. We want our assets to go ahead and produce us income that lands on our income statement. Your assets could be your business. That could be stocks. That could be gold. It could be, it can be whatever, paintings. Like, let's follow Jay-Z's blueprint, catalogs, whatever he invests in, right? The whole goal is to have more assets on your balance sheet because that's how you calculate your net worth. I don't care how much money you netted last year. What's your balance sheet looking like? That's what a real bag is. Because if you netted $100,000, but you got $200,000 in debt, you are a negative $100,000 person, meaning negative net worth, meaning you are not on that path to build generational wealth because you have that debt. So I think that started the real estate journey for sure. I know that was like a long accounting lesson, but ultimately,
I think it was necessary.
We actually need to do this.
Yeah, like you said, that income statement, that piece you said on the income statement was really, really major. Because whenever we talk about it, we talk about budgeting to people a lot. In an income statement, like that's kind of the way we tell them to start. Is like, hey, write this and write that. But whenever you start talking about that bigger picture and really looking at it from that other zone, you really need that balance sheet. Exactly. And
the balance sheets with a bag at, period. B&B's.
My sister got the bars.
Hell yeah, man. She came out
here. I do got some bars, but that's a whole different combo.
Hey, man, she got the names that rhyme and stuff, flow well. Let me find out you about to drop an accounting mixtape or something on it.
It's coming out July 5th, 2021.
Hey, let's go. Let's go. She gonna have that heat for y'all.
Yes, but investment strategy, I would just start to say, I started investing small. I focused in the Detroit area. Detroit is a booming market, as we all know now. I was looking at Detroit 3 or 4 years ago because of that. I did, do my research and know that a lot of investors are going out there because it's a new economy. Look at New York. It's, getting gentrified. Well, they're looking in the Midwest, so Detroit, Chicago, Ohio, to revitalize those communities as well. So I followed Dan Gilbert and learned about what he was doing with Quicken Loans, with Rocket Mortgage, and he's killing the game in Detroit. So I'm like, okay, that's a great place to go ahead and buy some property. So I love Detroit because you can buy a property for as low as $1,000 on auction, right? Mm-hmm. They start at $1,000, and sometimes if no one else bids, you're gonna land that $1,000 property. And to go ahead and fix that property up, it may only cost you $40,000, $50,000. When I say those numbers to my friends, they get so scared, like, oh my God, you paid $50,000 to fix up a property. But if you think about it, you have options as long as you are in a good position yourself. So $50,000, to me, that's like, okay, well, I'm putting 25 of that $50,000 on my credit card, right? Number one. The remaining $25,000, I'm going to disperse that over time. $25,000, that's just $5,000 for 5 months. That's not too much money. So when you really break down what the plan is, you can achieve that. So my goal was to, buy in small, rehab the property, reap the benefits of having that asset, but then also having that extra equity. So now I can go ahead, pull that equity and reinvest that back into another unit. So I did a 1-family unit in Detroit. I also purchased an 8-unit property in Detroit. More recently, my boyfriend and I are actually going to close on the property next month, another multi-unit in Detroit. Go. And I also just closed on 2 buildings. One has 5 units, one has 6 units with my business partner in Ohio. So I think I have 16 doors altogether.
Let's go. I love it. I love it.
And I'm glad you touched on the fact that you invested in Detroit. We had an episode with our girl Asia Denson a while back. We need to get Asia back on.
Yeah, we do.
And she was telling us about the opportunity in Detroit. And I was wondering, that was one of my big questions for you. Do you invest in New York? Because I don't hear too many people talking about investing in New York and Cali.
So New York is super expensive, as everyone knows. And honestly, I'm more about the ROI than I am about the HYPE, the hype, right? So it sounds good. Oh, I have a property in New York, but how much are you really yielding? You can just be probably breaking even in most cases, or just making $500 extra. I want to see a property where my expenses are $1,000, but I'm making $4,000 from that property. That makes a lot more sense to me, right? I'm all about the numbers. I don't care about the hype. I don't care about the area. It's what makes more sense financially, which is why instead of trying to buy in New York, I focused on buying in places like Detroit, because essentially, if you want to stay in these bigger areas like Detroit, like New York, California, you can use the income from your properties in those areas to go ahead and fund your life. So if I wanted to, get a closet in New York for $2,000 a month, at least I can do that knowing that it's not coming from my hard-earned money. It's coming from my passive income from my investments.
That closet comment took you out.
I'm just being honest.
I didn't want to say nothing, man. But yes, it did. Hey, no, but I totally understand. And I kind of want to ask, like you said, you were looking and you were researching and you saw what Dan was doing with Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage. So if there's someone who's listening to this and they might want to get into real estate, how would you go about telling them, okay, maybe you can't get in this hot market, but how would you go about telling them finding a new market that might be bubbling up?
So do your research, which is why I love the tax code, because the tax code does provide guidance on where to look, right? And here's a perfect example: opportunity zones, right? That's in the tax code, and that shows you where to look, right? Because you get to take advantage of tax abatement, tax deferment, etc. But then you're also able to get these assets in these areas that are up and coming. So when you hear opportunity zone, I just think opportunity zone. This is the place where you should be. And those are areas like Detroit, Chicago, Ohio, some places in Atlanta, some more places in like Texas, etc. Well, the tax code provides guidance for where the money is going to be flowing from in the future, right? Which is why business owners and real estate developers get really good tax credits and deductions. So if you invest in these areas, you will reap the benefits in 5 and 10 years. And again, investing and building wealth is a long-term game. It's not a quick turnaround time. Well, that's your blueprint right there. Look in opportunity zone. That's a really good start. So I would say to research the area for sure, understand what's going on. Specifically in Detroit, what Dan Gilbert was doing was, again, allowing people to have a new chance with home ownership, right? Also, by him building these companies, he's providing jobs. And on top of that, he's providing infrastructure for downtown. The whole downtown Detroit was basically funded by his investments. He revitalized the whole downtown community. What does that do? Attract other businesses. Oh, now Google's in Detroit. Oh, now Amazon's in Detroit. Amazon's building a new fairground. Oh, they're going to invest $50 million into the Motown Museum. Why? Because it started with one trend. So it's very important for people who want to get started with investing for the low, research what is up and coming in that neighborhood. So again, Detroit has so many promising signs, so many rooms for development, so many jobs that are going to be opened. If there's jobs in that area, people are going to need a place to live and sleep. Thanks. So why not invest in real estate and be able to be that landlord?
Hey, man, she just gave y'all the keys in the game.
Very valid reasons and good stuff to look for. I never knew Dan Gilbert was doing all that stuff in Detroit.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Yeah. I ain't gonna lie to you.
I just talking with Quicken Loans. That's an amazing service, by the way. They really, that's another one. They own it.
Rocket Mortgage, man. So we can pivot to our last section of the pod. The last section is what's on your timeline or what's in your world. That's what we're going to call it right now. What's going on? Something that you saw that you want to speak on that you feel is going to be important for business owners or just your everyday person.
Oh, yeah. So obviously, I'm a CPA. I'm a tax professional. I'm going to say that the biggest news on my timeline was the pushback of our tax season start date, right?
That's major.
It kind of bothers me because when they push dates back, people tend to, all right, well, I got some more time. As an entrepreneur, a small business owner, not only is analyzing your income statement and your balance sheet important, let's talk about the statement of cash flow. That's very important. So tax time, I typically like to get the client's returns done January, February at a minimum so that you can spend the rest of your year knowing that your tax debt is already paid and now you can expend your money where it needs to be, right? So cash flow is very important. And so I don't want small business owners to think that just because the date's pushed back, that they don't have to prioritize taxes. You need to have a firm standing of how you start the year. And taxes is a very important part of that because you can't go spending on marketing, advertising, personnel, or software if you have some debt that may be outstanding. So that's one thing that's on my timeline. And I will encourage all entrepreneurs and creators who are listening to not delay, still go ahead, start organizing your business income and expenses, get your bookkeeping done, and still go ahead and start the process of prepping your taxes because even though the deadline's pushed back, your business ain't, right? And you want to be able to have the handle on your cash flow and not let a tax bill deter you from making any other major moves throughout the year.
I love it. And I ain't gonna lie, I have one more question that just popped up in my head. I gotta know. What is your why? What makes you go so hard? Like what makes you tick?
So it's crazy because I have this conversation like all the time with myself. I actually had to rediscover what my why was. And I'm telling y'all that's very important. Sometimes your why, it may change. When I first started entrepreneurship and going to school, etc., my why was always my mother. I love her to death. She is one of the hardest working women that I know. She is all about her family. She'll put anything on pause to make sure that we are straight. So my goal is to make sure that she was straight. And she knew, like, yes, she does have a job, but she knows now that she wants to leave her job at any given time. She can do so, knowing that her daughter got her. That was very important to me. As important where when I made my first large sum of money, I took it all and purchased the house that we live in now for my mom. I bought her a house 2018 because I wanted to make sure that she was comfortable and she was good. But again, now my mom's at that point where she's good. My brothers are good. And I had to ask myself, well, what am I doing everything for now? Like, what is everything for? And as we know, like, our talents, our skills, our gifts are for a bigger purpose. There's no coincidence why we're giving what we were given. And I now see that it went from me wanting to benefit my family, but now I get to benefit thousands of families because I'm employing people. I have a company where I'm providing jobs, several different jobs. I have a tax training program where I teach people how to build their own businesses. I have, investments with different partners, and I'm helping them benefit their lives as well. And of course, shout out to FOLA, through my work as a CPA, I'm able to help entrepreneurs build their own businesses, create generational wealth, and impact their families. So it went from me benefiting my small family of 5 people to now, who knows, that number could be well over 10,000 because it all starts with you sowing little seeds in people's lives. So every single day I think about that. Well, the work that I'm doing is gonna help my clients provide for their families, provide for their families. So there's that compound effect where it's like there's no limit to how impactful or how influential I can be. It's just all about the effort I'm gonna put in, but I directly see a return, and then I'm able to directly impact my community. I'm black and proud, and it makes me proud that I'm able to go ahead and impact my community in that way.
I love it.
Especially continuing to sow them seeds even after like you've met that immediate why. That's amazing.
Sure is. I definitely appreciate you for coming on, spending some time with us this Saturday. I really learned a lot from this podcast, and I definitely just want to say thank you and appreciate you.
Yes, indeed. And before we wrap anything up, I wanted to just speak on that piece you said about tax planning again. I think too many entrepreneurs, they overlook it. They want to fit tax season into like this small window, like you do whenever you're still on the employee side. If you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you need to understand, like what my sister was saying, this is an all year thing. This is a year round thing. Don't get comfortable. Don't get complacent. Start getting your shit together now. And get the people CPA up if you need your stuff. You licensed in all 50 states, right?
I sure am.
Y'all go fuck with it. I'm telling y'all. No.
Thank you guys for having me. And again, yes, tax planning is very important. Wealthy people aren't planning for right now. They're already 10 years ahead. So it's important for us to be that proactive as well. And no one wants overpaying taxes. Everyone's like, I want to pay $750 like Donald Trump. Well, Donald Trump probably had a really good tax plan, a really good CPA on his team, somebody to help put his investments in places that made sense, not only economically, but tax-wise. So with every transaction, there's always an economic impact and a tax impact. So it's important for you as a business owner to know where you stand and how to enforce proper structure in your business, how to put certain policies in place, how to pay yourself the right way. All of these things that are going to be good to grow and scale your business, but also save you a lot of coins with this upcoming tax season.
Hey, I love it. And can you please just plug yourself in where they can find you on Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever you're located at? Can you just plug your social medias and your websites?
Yes. So y'all can feel free to follow me here on Instagram at The People CPA. I'm also on Twitter at The People CPA. Full Up Financial does have an Instagram page as well. And visit the website, folafinancial.com. If you guys need me, we do offer free 15-minute consultations. So
hey, y'all tap in. Most definitely.
Yes. Once again, Sheneya, I want to say thank you so much for coming on our podcast and blessing us with these gems and information. I know I left with a lot. I hope the audience left with a lot. And we could go ahead and wrap this thing up with a couple house cleaning items. As always, everybody, thank y'all for listening to the Black Wealth Renaissance podcast. Please leave a rating, a review. We love to hear back from you guys just about the impactful information that we've been sharing. Jalen, you got anything?
No, I just want to say thank y'all. Appreciate y'all. And like David said, y'all, please leave a rating or review on the podcast. Share with your family, friends. Just help us get out there and help this information keep on going. If you are a new listener, want to say thank you for tapping in. We hope that you stick around with us and just keep on following us on this journey. BWR to the moon, baby.
Yes, indeed.
With that being said, this is Black Wealth Renaissance signing out. Peace.
I got money on my mind. I'm just trying to get some dough. I ain't picking up my line unless it's money on the phone.